Hey Deep Chatters, I'm Leah Morris here with my co-host Jennifer Butler, and this is Deep Chats Podcast, where we have raw discussions about real life. Each week you can expect unfiltered, no BS conversations from the heart about topics that actually might matter to you. We're just a couple of relationship coaches who want to cut through the small talk and dive deeper. So thanks for joining us on this journey, and be sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode.
Hi, Deep Chatters. Welcome back. We're here for another Deep Chat. Leah and I are in the conversation about how really to stay grounded and centered when life is uprooted, whether you're uprooting purposefully or uprooted, without expecting it. Kind of the way to move forward is really the same. And how do you do that in a way that, honors yourself, generates a future that feels good for you, and keeps you in a place where you don't go crazy. Yeah. So we thought we kind of really have this conversation today with all of you, because we imagine that there's a lot of you, for a variety of reasons, that might find themselves in some sort of transitional phase in life.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts, like how we all kind of go through these things in together. But I think you and I have we come into contact with people like this all the time whose lives are completely changing, and our clients come to us for this reason, like how can we move through these times when things are changing so rapidly and everything feels really out of balance, how to really find balance in that and find the groundedness through that uprooting. And this is something that I'm also going through right now personally. With my breakup, I have decided to also move and buy a one-way ticket to Europe, which is something that I've always dreamed of, but scares the shit out of me. But yeah, it's been a really interesting experience, and I think this is going to be, an important conversation that I think a lot of people go through things like this.
Yeah, and a hopeful conversation, right? Because I think that when no matter how scary whatever you're going through is, yours is exciting and scary, right? Like it's super exciting, but like a one-way ticket to a country that you don't know, right? On your own, like that's terrifying in some ways. But or if it's that there was a death or a divorce or something like that, and all of your life circumstances changed and you have to move to a new place or something like that, no matter what, I think that when you're able to somehow find a center, right? When you're able to somehow stay grounded, stay connected to that deepest part of yourself, I think there's a way, even if there's pain and fear and all of that, I think there is also a way to be connected to the possibility and the excitement and the hope and, whatever else there is that's going to be on the other side of whatever it is you're navigating. So, I love when we can connect to that hope.
Mm-hmm. How do you think that you can connect to that hope? I mean, I have some tools that I use that I don't know if I've ever actually verbalized, but I'm curious, with you, how do you connect to hope in the midst of everything just seeming like it's a hurricane around you?
Yeah, I have a lot of tools, actually. I think that, no matter what we're talking about, whether it's this topic or anything else, whoever's listening, have tools. I think that's one of the things as coaches that is, kind of the thing that it's like one of our magic sort of ways we navigate life is we just have a lot of tools and we use them. because they don't always work every time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like sometimes, you know, meditation is one of my main tools. I meditate daily, and, you know, it's a game changer for me. But even still, there are times when meditation doesn't work for what I'm going through. And I need to really access other tools to find my way. So yeah, but meditation for sure.
Sort of to like help calm your thoughts from spinning out of control. Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly. I think that if nothing else, you know, when you're going through a change, there's so many thoughts, there's so many what ifs, there's like worst case scenarios, right? Like our minds are just like, oh my God, what is happening? What am I doing? And I think meditating really gives you the skill of learning how to calm that down, learning how to quiet things, learning how to really connect to that source within yourself, you know, the part of you that's below all the chatter, the part of you that's below all the fear, the part of you that's below all the doubt, the part of you that's like rooted in source. I think that that's probably the magic or power of meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, when you are able to quiet yourself, or at least like find some sort of stillness when everything is moving around so quickly, and including your thoughts, I think that's where, like you said, you can access source, and you can access like the center of you and your truth, and you know, whatever it is that you want to call it. I kind of think of it as your intuition, you know, your intuitive guide. And that is definitely one tool that I should probably make more of a habit, meditation. But I feel also I tend to do it instinctually when I'm feeling uprooted. And even though it's maybe not like a daily habit for me, it is something that I feel that, especially, you know, when things are going awry, I sort of, just sort of drop into that. And one of the tools I love to use is when I'm dropped into myself, and when I can really feel that flutter of my intuition, and this may not work for every situation, like you were saying too, they're all just tools. I try to make decisions quickly. And I try not to overthink too much. I can feel when I'm overthinking things, it feels a little too cerebral, and the world doesn't, like, I'm busy trying to make sense of everything rather than feeling what's right and what's the best move. So when I'm sort of in my uprooted phase, or, you know, we all go through these phases of uprootedness and then grounding again. I just sort of listen to the instinct, the intuition, and make a decision. Like, I act. Yeah. These are the times where I'm most in my doing, is when I'm uprooted. Like, I know decisions need to be made, and so I make them and I follow through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I guess I'm curious, how do you, like, what's your sensation or your feeling? Because I know with me, I know when it's my intuition. Right. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like, how do I know if it's my intuition or fear? Like, how do I know which one it is? So I'm curious what your take on that is, and how you know when it's your intuition.
I think like a lot of people ask that question, like, how do you know the difference? Because sometimes it does feel very similar. A couple things, I think it takes time and practice to come to know that part of yourself, and to come to know what that feels like, and what that, you know, what that really is. Because at first, you know, those lines can be blurred a bit. Sometimes intuition is fear. Like, sometimes it's like, you shouldn't go over into that dark alleyway. And it's sort of like a protection, you know, an intuitive protection. But For me, I tend to feel it literally like in my diaphragm. It's like this fluttery feeling that's, it seems a little, it feels a little bit anxious, like something needs to happen. It's like, it's something that sort of moves me into action. So there's like a slight tinge of, what's it called? Like it needs to happen fast. Like that's how I feel. I don't know if like urgency is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. There's a feeling of urgency. Like you need to listen. We need to get moving. You need to make a decision, or you need to, you know, whatever it is that I'm being called to do. Like when I booked my ticket to Europe, the thought like sort of popped into my mind, and my body immediately was like, the flutter happened. And I took a couple days to think about it, because I also wanted to make sure that I wasn't escaping anything by leaving, and I wasn't just being distracted from like a deeper emotional process that I needed to experience. So I did spend a little bit of time checking in, but a decision like that, typically you take a few months to really plan out. But yeah, like I said, I like to choose quickly when I'm in that before I talk myself out of it. And so I just took a couple days and I decided, but that's kind of what it feels like for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, for me, it's kind of similar. For me, it's almost like a flood. So it's like a flood from down below and it floods up, and it's almost like everything gets into alignment. It's like a wave that just kind of washes over me.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you said, it takes a while. And I do coach my clients a lot in this, and how to really feel into your intuition. You know, what does it feel like? How does, and feel into fear, right? So when I'm in fear, it's like comes at me. Like I can feel constricted. I can feel tightness. I can feel myself close off. As opposed to like when it's my intuition, even if it's protective, there's an expansion. It's like, even if it's like, don't go in that dark alley, I actually think it probably is saying more like, go the other way. Because I also think the intuition doesn't ever say like negative things, right? Like your intuition's never going to be like, oh, you shouldn't wear that, right? Like you shouldn't do, it's always going to be like this loving push toward something. So yeah, I kind of tune into that, but yeah, it does take time to really start to like feel specifically into how you feel and what those little sort of distinctions are in your body.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that, you're right with the whole like positive and negative direction. Intuition, I feel like you're right. It is a push forward always.
Yeah.
And it's not I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. So then what's the difference between that feeling of pushing forward positively and like fear? Would the fear, do you think, be the negative version of that? Like what do you think?
I don't know if it's negative and positive. I think that it's more, I kind of feel everything in sensations, right? And so I think fear constricts us. I think fear causes us to choose or make decisions or act out of a way that holds us back and keeps us small. Whereas intuition, even if there's fear, intuition is this sort of, like I said, push forward, this space that's made for expansion, right? So if you're being pushed into something that's scary, there's still going to be an expansion, right? You're going to feel the fear, but it's going to be like, holy crap, right? Like, whereas fear is like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not doing it, like, right? And so I know, like, I'm very like I said, I'm very like, I guess, kinesthetic or whatever. I feel stuff, but I still think even when your intuition is warning you, there's still this like expansive quality about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I feel that too. I think, I mean, I'll just keep bringing up the example with the, buying this one-way ticket. So much fear, I think, started popping up into my mind when I was deliberating over the decision. And what I was hearing from that was, what if what if you run out of money? What if you can't make it work? What if something happens to you over there? What if you just feel super lonely and you become depressed or something? And all these like little voices, I guess, that started to make me shrink.
Yeah.
And started to make me think like, just stay where you are, don't do anything. Like, you probably can't follow through or do it anyway, or you're probably not capable enough. Like, something that I would never say, to anybody, but that was like sort of the feeling of fear. And then there was the other side of that, which was the intuition that was like, pushing me in the direction of like, yes, it's going to be scary, but you are capable to figure this out. This is going to be the best decision you ever made. You're fully supported. You may not have all the answers right now, but you don't need all the answers right now. You never have all the answers. Yeah. So it's sort of there's this like duality in my mind and in my body. And the fear was like not as rooted feeling either as like, I love the word expansive that you use, but I also feel like there's like a really strong like rootedness at the same time when it comes to intuition versus fear.
Totally. I think fear lives higher in your body. I think intuition really does live like in your hips, right? Like your root chakra is safety, security, all of that, right? Like I think that's where that intuition lives. And so that's why it feels so rooted to the ground and rooted to the outs, to like your space and yeah, which is another tool, exactly what you're saying. Like you're talking about another tool, I think, which is not even really affirmations, but speaking into the truth. The truth is you are supported. The truth is you are the source of your safety. The truth is, right, that you are capable. That's the truth. It's not an affirmation because it's not something you're looking for outside of yourself, but you're connecting to what's really true underneath all that fear. And I think finding those statements of truth within your body when you're going through something that's scary or uprooting or whatever, those statements of truth are like buckets of cold water, right? It's like, wake up, like, don't let yourself fall into the trance of fear. Like, this is what's true. I've got this.
That's so true. And that is a tool that I definitely use with my clients too. I tell them, pay attention to what your fears are. And we write them down. I actually did this myself, and, become aware of your fears, look at them, and then recognize what's the true statement though.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to like see all these fears. And in fact, like, it helps to really get them in front of you and out of, the nebulous cloud of your mind and onto paper, and then writing out like, okay, is there truth to this? And, typically there isn't a whole lot of truth that is tied to them. But there's also bigger truths, I think, which, like for me saying, I don't have it all figured out. It's like, sure, that may be true, but the bigger truth is you don't need to have it all figured out. You never have it all figured out. And you've been okay, in this space of uncertainty, and you're going to continue to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when you do have it all figured out, that's when things really actually go the opposite way.
Yeah.
Right? It's like life happens when we're making plans or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we really don't, we don't know. And so I think you know, exactly what you're saying, like staying connected to that deeper truth and allowing that to guide you is really the only control we have. You can't control what happens on the outside.
It's true. Yeah. I also think this, you know, these are big lessons in attachment for us. I think I was mentioning to you before that, you know, when we are in this sort of like transitory phase of life, we kind of have to boil everything else out. Everything gets boiled off, and we recognize, like, you know, what really matters, what is the most true, what ultimately, you know, is going to help us grow. And I think sometimes we attach too much to like something staying the same. And like you said, you know, things being just as planned and having it all figured out. Like we have attachments to that. We have attachments to relationships that we're in, to places that we live, to our pets, to, you know, everything. And when we're given this gift of uncertainty, and it really truly is a gift, we can't help but find ourselves back to square one. Like, okay, what's this all about? And that's why we're talking about things like intuition now and truth. It's like, that's what it's all about when it boils down, is sort of that, you know, maybe you've lost touch with that. And this is an opportunity to reconnect back to your source and back to that truth and intuition.
Yeah, it's amazing how much the kind of like the stuff clouds that. I think that's why kids are so intuitively connected and so just like kids just get it. They just see so clearly because they don't have all that stuff, right? And then you watch as they get older and they get more and more stuff. How, you know, then that sort of like really deep laser light connection to source gets clouded.
Yeah. I'm like, how can we be more like kids? And also, I think that's a tool too, is it's funny that you brought up kids, because I actually use like, how would I have chosen if I was a child? Like, and what were the things that I was doing as a child to bring me joy and to bring me, you know, to life? And I have this list on my computer screen. Actually, I was just looking at it earlier today. That is like, what was Leah like when she was a child?
Yeah.
And that's the easiest way for me to tap back into that, like you said, that laser light connection, where the fear just doesn't exist and the attachments just aren't there, and it's just pure truth.
Yeah, I love that. There's so much we can learn from, like, when we are willing to do some of that, like not only just the inner child work, but just like connecting back to being a child and how, you know, how were we as children? You know, what were the characteristics that defined us? You know, it's like, who, you know, how do I reconnect to that person and bring her forward as I go through whatever's changing around me?
Yeah.
I love that tool.
Yeah. It's also a good one too, when you're trying to, well, I guess it's another tool of, you know, showing yourself compassion through the lens of tending to yourself like you're a child.
Yeah.
You know, when you are being faced with adversity and things are being uprooted, I think really figuring out how to self-soothe and how to self-nurture is vital. I mean, you hear about self-love all the time. And I think that for me, I most easily break that down to, if I was a child and I was having my life uprooted, how would I need to care for that child? How would I need to care for myself in that way? Some people use like, how would I treat my best friend? And, you know, what are the things? For me, I find it more effective to look at it like from a child and mothering perspective. And maybe that's just my feminine nurturing nature, but it's really, I don't know. That's a tool that I think is just ongoing, even without there being an uprooting, just learning how to tend to yourself in that way, whether it's, getting extra sleep, or I have this tool where I rub my hands together and create heat, and then I place it on parts of my body that, I'm feeling that nervousness, or I'm feeling the emotional pain. There's just something about that physical touch for me, that warm physical touch that feels like I'm being held.
Yeah.
That really, really helps.
Yeah. And I think that's a skill, self-soothing, being able to self-soothe, being able to nurture yourself. That's a foreign concept to a lot of people because they never had it and never learned how to do it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, essential. It's like with clients, that's kind of one of the first things I always teach is, how do you self-soothe? Like, what does that even look like? Right? Because for some people, it's like, what are you talking about? Soothe myself. Mm-hmm. Right. And so learning that, because it's so like when you can really kind of tend to yourself, soothe yourself, contain yourself, hold yourself, calm yourself, all of that, right? It's the ultimate of like really kind of grounding yourself in anything, right? Yeah. In uprooting or in a difficult conversation. I mean, really in anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what does that look like for you? Do you have any, how do you soothe yourself?
Yeah. So for me, it's a lot of touch for me too. Yeah. I'm a big person and feel whatever you're feeling, because we all feel emotional stuff. But since we're talking about, being uprooted and kind of life being all over the place, connecting with whatever it is you're feeling. I feel afraid, I feel overwhelmed, I feel, scared, whatever that is, I feel doubtful, and just see where it is in your body. Like, is it in your throat? Is it in your heart? And when you find it in your body, just laying a hand, laying your hand there and just holding space. I love, like, I've got you. I've got you. I'm here. I see you. I've got you, right? Until that kind of feels contained. And then, the soothing is whatever you need. And it's a lot of times like, you're loved, you're safe, whatever those words are, in the moment. But yeah, just touching, holding, connecting to what you're feeling. I'm a big believer, and I love that, science has kind of shown us that when we name a feeling, the intensity immediately starts to lessen. Yeah. Right. And so if you can just sit with that part of your body and keep asking that part of your body, like, what it's feeling, until you get to the specific feeling, right? That's the power. Like, I'm scared. Okay. But that's not it. Right. And as you keep going and going and going, you find out that you're not scared. You're actually really, really, really rooted in doubt. I don't believe in, I don't believe in myself. I feel so much self-doubt. Oh, then it just immediately lessens.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can work with it, right?
Totally. I feel like you just spoke to my soul right now. I'm like, I mean, for me, like, I think everything that I've been feeling lately has been rooted in, like, self-doubt, for sure. And taking that and saying, what do I do with this now? And like you said, working with it, sort of like the biggest, I think, takeaway for me has been, upon working with that doubt, is to learn how to, like, be self-reliant, or to know that I can be self-reliant. And I think, when we are going through these times of uprootedness, that checking in with the naming the feelings and everything, and really boiling it down to, like, where is this actually coming from? You end up developing more self-reliance. You know, when you're
Totally.
using all of these tools and when you're naming your feelings and when you're meditating and tapping into your intuition, like it just becomes this, like, you become this superhuman that can do anything. But it's all there for us. You know, the whole experience is there for us to be able to use these tools and name the feelings and soothe.
Yeah. And meet your needs and take
Mhm.
action.
Take action. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, and I think you mentioned something to the whole, you know, when you're sort of done transitioning, or maybe you've been taking the actions and you've been naming the feelings, there's sort of this like end phase that, you know, you need to decompress and sort of catch your balance in the new place that you end up in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you could be doing these tools, and I think the common misconception is like you're going to do them once or twice and you're just going to feel great, right? Like, no. You know, something like, I mean, I remember when I moved, you know, I uprooted my son and my dog, and for months, like, and I was so happy. I was so happy that I moved. I was so happy where I ended up. Like, I loved everything about it, yet I still felt so overwhelmed and off center, and just I couldn't find my grounding. And even though I was using my tools, even though I was doing all of this, and someone said to me, you know, there's this like actual, you know, sort of centering or like recalibrating to the new space, whether it's a new country or a new state or a new home or whatever. There's like, it's like your physical body has to catch up as well. It's not just, you know, it's like you just have to give yourself that time. I know for me, it was moving from New York to somewhere that is less, you know, energy, less motion and movement and intensity. And for me, like, I didn't realize how much that was a part of my nervous system. And when I went somewhere quieter and more relaxed, I had all that energy just spinning around, and I had to decompress from it. And it took a while. So I think one of the tools really do is just being so gentle and kind with yourself, and like giving yourself the space you need, the love you need, the attention, but just grace. Give yourself grace.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Wow. I can imagine it being such a shock to your nervous system of that constant stimulation. And then you're just sort of like warped into this stillness.
Yeah.
And it can feel like you're spinning like a top, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that decompression phase is totally important. And the fact that, you know, not giving it an actual like time that you need to feel, you know, rebalanced again, and just knowing that like this too shall pass. You know, it's gonna take time, and being patient with yourself and is going to be super important. And I feel like I'm probably going to be in that decompression phase for a while. Just knowing myself and knowing, you know, even though change is exciting and you know, I'm choosing this for myself, which we don't always choose these total uprooting things, you know, like you were saying. But even though I'm choosing this for myself, it's gonna take some time for me to come back to that stillness again and find just what feels right. Like right now, I feel like I'm in this flow, and I'm just being like pushed forward. But you know, as with every phase in life, there's always that time to sort of like stop and look around. This is where I am now. This is who I am now. So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you though.
I'm excited too. I'm excited. I think that there's just going to be so much goodness that comes from this decision, as always. And, as you know, too, like that's you moving from New York to somewhere completely different. It's like, I'm sure you don't regret that at all. I'm sure that it's just like, yeah, that was a scarier one of those decisions, but
yeah,
gosh, so worth it.
Yeah. And like everything else in life, everything you do is going to mean whatever you make it mean. Right. So find the meaning, right? Like there's, it will mean what you make it mean.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, yeah, I'm getting excited and nervous at the same time now that we've like fully like expressed this and talked about it. But I think, a lot of you listeners out there who are going through, transitions, uprootings, uncertainty of any sort, it can be extremely scary and hard to navigate. So just know that there are a plethora of tools out there, some of which we mentioned today. And if you have any questions of more tools, feel free to get a hold of us. Otherwise, take care of yourself and just be super gentle. And until next time.
Until next time, Deep Chatters, have a beautiful week. To all you Deep Chatters out there, Leah and I want to thank you so much for listening. This is a podcast that's all about connection, so we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Instagram at Deep Chats Podcast. And if you haven't already, please go to iTunes to rate and review us. Every review helps other Deep Chatters just like you be able to find this podcast.